All right, so I am Brendan. I'm the host of the Fusion Podcast, and I'm attempting to do something that we are calling Fusion First Takes. And so the idea behind a Fusion First Take is that we will give an opinion on something that's fresh in the news, whether culturally or in the world of Christianity, as a quicker response than our weekly podcast allows us. And so I've actually invited Nia to join me on this podcast on this fast take or first take, and let's see um, if she's going to come in here or not, if I can figure out the technology that will allow her to be in here. So, welcome, welcome to the Fusion First Take, where some of the members of the Fusion podcast team share a first take on something that has happened recently in the culture or in Christianity. As I said, I wanted to discuss real quickly with Nia John MacArthur's comments over the weekend about Beth Moore. For those who might have missed it, at a conference over the weekend, a conference at his own facility, John MacArthur was in sort of a Q&A time. It was a panel discussion time, and the host of that panel discussion, I'm pretty sure it was Todd Friel. I can tell by the voice. It was Todd Friel, who was the host of Wretched, which is both a radio program and a TV program, said to each member on the panel, he was going to give them one word, and they, off the top of their head, were to give a, quote, light and pithy response. And so the first word that he gives to John MacArthur is Beth Moore. And John sort of stumbles around, asks some questions. What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to say? Blah, 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 blah. And of course, Todd Friel, the host, is like, hey, you're supposed to give me a one or two word light, pithy answer response to when I say that name. And so MacArthur's response is, go home. And so his
Mm,
response to Beth Moore is go home, which I didn't take as much of an issue. I'm going to let you, Nia, give your. I didn't take it as much of an issue because obviously it was a joke. He was told to be light and pithy, and obviously it was a joke. But he did make sure to quickly follow up that there's no biblical justification in his mind for women preachers. So Nia, what are your thoughts just on that portion when he starts by saying Beth Moore needs to go home and quickly reasserts his view that there's no biblical justification for women preachers?
I mean, it, I mean, it's just one of those things, like just in common courtesy or just a matter of kindness, like just based on that response, it doesn't seem like they have any type of relationship, like any type of friendship or anything like that. And so it's like, why, why would you even make a comment like that if she's not there to defend herself or be there, to say, ah, ha, ha, okay, whatever, shut up, John, something like that, you know. And like I actually tweeted about it and I was like, Beth Moore never bothered nobody. Why? And like, why would you even bring her name in it? And like, just looking at the back of the heads of the people that are in the audience, they look like a whole bunch of old men, from I mean, just from that particular group. I mean, granted, it was probably 10 people that I could see out of maybe a couple hundred or something. I don't know, but just in the tackiness of it, of what he did, the messiness of it, like you don't meet that with like women who talk too much, but just like the messiness of it, like why would you think that's okay? Like why would you,
You bring up a good point
you
because
know,
he's been on the stage with other people that he's disagreed with before. And I'm thinking of people like R.C. Sproul and people like that who are in that coalition of Together for the Gospel, where they don't agree on all theological points, but they all get in the
yeah,
room together and they're all willing to be nice to each other.
yeah, yeah,
He
and
doesn't extend that courtesy to her at all. In fact,
yeah.
next to him is Phil Johnson, who is the executive director of Grace to You, which of course is John MacArthur's radio ministry and all that. And he gets very personal. He asserts, "Oh, she's narcissistic. When I look at her and when I think about her, I just see her as being narcissistic." So
I mean,
I Go
But
ahead.
see, that's what the Bible is for. Not to be and not to put it in such negative terms, but it's like if you can't see yourself on the story pages, then what is it really doing? Because that's what most messages are about. They're about talking about a specific character or a specific story in the Bible and saying how this applies to your life. If you would have went through this, then you probably would have responded this way, or you may have responded the same way. And so it's just like, so dude, how are you reading the Bible? Are you just reading it because that's the right thing to do, or because you have this position and you're just trying to dissect it and be able to write what do you call those things, write Bibles and commentaries without actually internalizing it for yourself?
Hmm.
Because that's what I do when I read scripture. I have to
Yeah.
read it as a story, and I have to put myself in there and say, hey, these people, they had emotions. What would I feel like, if
He
Jesus would have
he
came up to me? What
attacks
would
he
I would have felt
attacks
like,
her really for that a lot. By the way, hey Steve, haven't seen you since school, man. Good to see you. Glad you're watching. Gary, good to see you too, man. And Brian, I see you there as well. We're talking about John MacArthur and his words against Beth Moore this weekend, where he told her she should go home, and the gentleman sitting next to him called her narcissistic. And Nia, you pointed out something, was that there was a lot of gray-haired men in the room, and it kind of felt like the old boys club. And here's the old
hmm
boys club, and they're looking at this woman who's a woman preacher, and they're like, yeah, she doesn't get
minding
up
her
in
own
here.
business. Oh, minding her own business. That's what bothers me. It's like she probably woke up and is like, wait, what? Like, who are you, John? Like the Kiki Palmer video. I don't know this man. I'm sorry. I can't tell you who he is if I saw him walking down the street.
Now listen,
Like,
man. I'm open and honest. I love Johnny Mack. He's one of my favorite preachers. I love his resources. Um, and I felt like you said that was kind of tacky, but like I said, I didn't have a huge problem with it. He was joking. He was supposed to be joking, and we can have different theological views. If you don't believe women should be preachers, that's fine. We can still dine together. But then he goes on. And Todd Friel, the host, could tell that he was starting to stew at this point. And so he's like, John, I feel like you want to say more. And so John goes on now to really just level her. He goes on to compare her to someone selling jewelry on the home
yeah.
shopping network. He's like, just because you can sell stuff doesn't mean that you're qualified to preach, is
But
the
like,
word he
dude,
kept
don't you
saying.
sell Bibles? You sell Bibles that you wrote. Don't you do that? Like you sell books
Don't
that you
mention
wrote.
that.
Like,
Just because this man sells
so
his
it's
own
like,
version of the Bible.
it's just,
And he slaughters Paula
yeah.
White as a false teacher. But
And
here's
there she goes
here's what
minding her business. You ain't heard nothing from Paula White. At least I haven't within the last couple of years because she's been going through her own little thing. But like,
well
you
he
got two
and he
women
makes sure to
minding their
throw that
business.
out there, that she's been married 3 times and she isn't qualified. But here's the comment that he said that actually legitimately ticked me off. He says the Me Too movement is the culture reclaiming ground in the church. And his whole idea is that the Me Too movement is the feminist way of getting into the church. And to me, at that point, when you make a statement like that, you're just showing your ignorance, because there is nothing. The Me Too movement did not start here. Here's newsflash, John MacArthur. The Me Too movement did not start so that feminists could overtake the church. Okay.
They don't want to. That's they try to get rid of the church. Forget taking it over.
That's true. That is true. I was thinking like I could say I've seen the job and I don't want it. No, no. But you're right. They're trying to get rid of the church. The feminists ain't trying to take over the church. They're trying to get rid of the church. But when
Yeah.
that's what bothered me. Episode 23 of the Fusion podcast, we deal with the Me Too movement, and one of
Mm-hmm.
the things that we talk about in that, the sadness is that it took a secular movement. It took a secular movement to bring out something that was being hidden by the church for too many years. So
Mm.
there was women in the church being assaulted, being treated wrong, and it took a secular movement, a non-Christian movement, for that to come to light. And for MacArthur to say, "Oh, this is just feminists trying to take over the church," I mean that like I said, that goes beyond ignorance. That that
Yeah.
that that just that just gets me hot.
You know what it I think to going deeper, like listen to, because honestly, after he called her, to, compared her to, shopping, I stopped listening. I was like, I can't take it anymore. I stopped listening, so I didn't even hear that part. I was just like, dude, like, because it's just the fact of the ranking and the influence that he has.
Yes.
And like,
Yes.
I wouldn't say that I follow him, but I'm very aware of who he is. But
Mhm.
to say that, and it's just like, to me, I discredit everything,
I
because then you
follow
show
him.
me what your heart really is.
Mm,
But like, to say something about that movement, that means, one, that you are a guilty party,
mm,
and that you are one of the ones that may not have been identified yet, or two,
mm,
you know someone who is,
mm.
and you're trying to
It
cover for them,
it does
you
make
know?
you wonder what may come out.
Because it's like, how could you, in good conscience, if you are so knowledgeable about the Bible, who Jesus is, that you had your own Bible commentary,
Yeah.
why would you think that's okay for you to say? When
Yeah.
Jesus was
Yeah.
so tender to the very people that you are saying is just a fluff, or just a gimmick, or just a X, Y, and Z, you
Yep.
know?
Yep.
And like, just even his whole theology, I'm just going to throw it in there, like, just as far as his, he's going to jump that gun, since this is his main argument, was that women don't have a place in the pulpit. Okay, great. And even further than that, whoever was facilitating that, they were just as misogynistic and, I don't even know the correct term of the word, bigotry, that he was, just by letting it go on, because anyone who
He
was
wasn't. He
faithful would have been
wasn't
like,
letting it go on.
you know,
The guy who was hosting is Todd Friel. He has his own radio
hmm
show called Wretched. He has his own TV show. If you have Direct TV, he has a TV show on at 11 each night. And again, these are guys who love the Lord, and I love them. I love the work that they do. Yeah, do I have some theological disagreements with them? Sure, sure. But as you said, the whole tone of this, which was just really just putting Beth Moore down, just putting down people, personal attacks, as I said, Phil Johnson calling her narcissistic. Um, that to me, there's like no decorum, there's no gravitas, there's no
hmm
class in what you're doing. You're in a room that feels like an old boys club, and you're just preaching to the choir, and you're just loving it. Thank you for those who
hmm
are joining us. We're talking about over the weekend how John MacArthur made some disparaging remarks about Beth Moore, and whether or not you agree with his theological stance on whether or not women preachers should be allowed. We're talking about the pettiness of how he went about it. So the last point I'm going to bring up as we do this is that he then bashes the SBC. Now, I am a former SB Southern Baptist Church pastor. You know a little bit about the Southern Baptist Convention, don't you, Nia? Just a little, just a little. Now, listen, we have been in that fellowship, and
hmm
I still have plenty of friends. In fact, this weekend I'm going to be going to a Southern Baptist hosted conference, right? So my point is, I know the SBC. I don't agree with everything within the SBC. It's funny because I've always called the SBC the old boys network. But John MacArthur has decided he was going to bash them because they recently had a resolution 9, it was called, and basically what they determined was that going forward, when making any new Bible translations, they would make sure to include Latinos, African Americans, and women on the committee. And to John MacArthur, this was horrible. His snide remark was, "How about somebody who knows Greek and Hebrew?" as as though my immediate response was as though that wouldn't be the criteria. Like they're just gonna walk out and say, hey, you Latino there, come on, sit in on our. Oh, Nia, you're a woman, come sit in on. Like that. No, the only criteria is gonna be a woman, a black, and a Latino, and that's it, right? I mean, how foolish is that?
I mean, it just really shows you where his heart was, and I don't know, blame Trump. I don't know. But but it's like, something like this, you really see his heart. And like I said, I haven't followed him, and I don't think, as far as I remember, hearing his name like in circles about scandals or any other weird things he may
No,
have said. I
no,
mean, not to say that
no,
anyone's
no,
perfect, not to say that,
no.
anyone. always has their ish together, the stuff never stank, but I've just never really heard his name in a negative term. But it's like to be so demeaning to women just because I was even afraid to put that up on Twitter because I didn't want him to, search his name and then see my tweet and then there goes my confidence in ministry, and so but it's just
I think it's safe
like
to say
you like
they're never going to invite the Fusion crew to any of their
yeah, no,
conferences.
ain't no, that's
That's a
okay.
shame because I have several of Johnny Mac's Bibles. I have
And
an
see, that's the
ESV
crazy
and
part.
an NASB and a.
Man, it's just yeah, it was really just heartbreaking. And I remember I don't I can't remember if this is the same person who I saw the article from Relevant Magazine that had all this in it, but
Yeah.
she was saying, how something like this just divides the church even more,
Yes.
because you
Yes.
have such two prominent people
Yes.
within the Christendom spectrum, I mean, that travel globally,
Yes.
men and women alike, and then all
Yep.
of a sudden you got this big divide that came out of nowhere. It's like, yo, like,
Well, it's
what's up with
interesting.
y'all? you
J.D.
know?
Greer, I believe he's the current president of the SBC, came out and defended Beth Moore. But we all know Beth Moore comes from the SBC circles, so you would expect that from them.
Well,
And
I'm
like
glad
I
that they
said,
did.
I can't say this enough. I love Johnny Mac. I've followed him for years. Most of 99% of his theology I'm always in agreement with. And if we disagree that's on something, that's fine. It isn't about the theology. If he wants to defend the idea that women should not be preachers, that's fine. Do that all day. Don't be so petty. Don't be so catty. Don't be so classless in personally attacking a person.
Yeah.
I guess I
I'm
can't.
just mad. Whoever the interview was, why was she the topic? Why was she the word? And like you said, it was two words at that. Like, why would you even, like, why? Because my,
Well,
my
that
assumption then would be that he knew
yes.
maybe his theology, maybe not what his response is going to be, but
Mm.
knew that his theology is like, why would you even tip that scale in a room like that? You
Well,
know
I
what I
think
mean?
that I think this was totally playing to the crowd. Todd Friel, the
Mhm.
host, knew that he could do something because MacArthur even said it before he responded. He said, "The last time we played this game, you got me in trouble." Like, come on, you know where this is headed. You know what Todd is doing. He's goading. He's trying to
Yeah.
poke the bear, and you're in a room that's only going to clap and laugh and thank you anyways. Nobody in the room is
Mhm.
going to stand up and be like, y'all ain't right. I
Y'all
wouldn't
better
if I
stop
was there.
playing. Nah, y'all better stop playing though, because Beth Moore got some power, so they better stop playing with her. That's how I'm gonna let her, cause I hope she don't even say nothing. I hope she just let him stew and let God
Yeah.
do what he do. Cause like, why would you do that? Like just why? Just
Well,
why? But,
like I
but yeah.
said, when he got into the Me Too, his comments about Me Too were full of ignorance. And as a podcast crew who dealt with that in episode 23, like I
Yeah.
said, it's been a shame on the church that it took a secular movement to bring these things to light, and for him to basically say, "Oh no, no, that isn't what this is about. What the YouTube movement about is feminists trying to take over the church." John, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
that's an ignorant view. It
Yeah.
took
And
a
to
secular
me,
movement to empower women to actually
yeah.
stand up and say, yes, even in the church, I have suffered and been silenced.
Yeah, and like even in what we talked about in that episode too is like that's part of the reason why women didn't even come forward or
They
don't
come
come forward
forward because
because
they
of
get
comments like that
attacked.
from people like
Hmm.
him.
Yep,
So now
yep,
we're the bad guys
yep,
and now we're accused of trying to take over by
yep.
letting you know that somebody in your clergy or somebody in your leadership hurt
Hmm.
me. They
I told you
violated
the
me,
story.
you
The
know?
first woman out there at Willow Creek. Back in the 80s, he was doing stuff inappropriate, but she didn't come forward because A, she felt like God was doing good things, which she didn't want to stop, and B, she was afraid she might be attacked. So,
Mhm.
uh, that I can't say how much that offended me and hurt me that MacArthur would say and do that. But
It didn't even
I
have
will
nothing to do
probably
with Beth Moore.
I
And that,
know.
it's just like honestly, to I guess my bottom line, I know we got to end because it's supposed to be short.
Yes, yes,
It's
short.
just
Yeah.
like I think it really shows what's since he wants to talk about Bible, out of the heart the mouth
Mm.
speaks.
Hey, I'm gonna leave it right at
So
that. I'm gonna leave it right at that. I will still though listen to Johnny Mac, and I will still use his Bible. But I'm very
I don't even
disappointed in
got
him.
one. I can get one now.
I'll send you one of mine because I got like 5 of them.
All right. All right. We'll see how that goes. I'll take a video when I receive it in the mail and we'll see how that works.
Hey, Nia, thank you for stopping in tonight. Thank
Yeah.
you for everybody, man. I see Kristen, I see Don, I see James, I see Matt. Thank you all for stepping in. This is a Fusion first take. We hope to do more of these in time, and so maybe they always won't be this long though, because this was supposed to be short, but it kind of went long.
Hey, you
But
know what? It was a rich one. It was a rich one, and I think we
it
good.
was rich. And by the way, we'd love to hear from you. You can always email us at fusionyoungadults with an S ministry.com. Email us your views and we'll talk about it on the podcast, man. So we'd love to hear from you. Hey, Nia,
Yeah,
thank you. Have a great evening.
absolutely. My pleasure.
All
See
right.
you later.
Everybody be blessed. Thank you.